Hi, welcome to the Think, Plan, Do Successful Thinking Frameworks and Tools presentation. We're here going to cover Part 1, Frameworks. First of all, we would like to introduce you to the main successful thinking framework. We call this Think, Plan, Do. The essence of this framework is that you first need to think about what you would like to achieve. Once you know what your vision is, what your objectives are, what your goals are, then you can plan on how you intend on achieving those goals. And once you have a plan mapped out, then you are on the do stage, where you execute the plan you devised to achieve your goals. In a way, the plan phase is what bridges the think and the do phases. This is why we believe that there is a time for thinking, a time for planning, and a time for doing. Let's explore the thinking phase a little bit more. The thinking phase is where you spend time dedicated to exploring your potential, where you set your mind free to explore your role in life to find your destiny. For some people, this is easy. They know from an early age what it is they were born to do, or at least they think they do. For others, it is not so easy. For others, it means that we spend more time exploring, learning, experiencing everything in life. The more you learn, the more you explore, the more you experience, the better the chance you have to find out what you were born to do. You may also be spending some of your time with inspiring people that can help you find what your potential is. The thinking phase includes time spent turning your dreams into a vision, and then your vision into a set of goals, and we'll cover this in more detail later. And finally, your thinking time should also be spent reviewing your failures, learning from your mistakes. Don't let your mistakes drag you down. Don't be discouraged. Learn from your mistakes and come back a better, a stronger person. Let me now introduce you to some of the frameworks and tools used in successful thinking. From a frameworks perspective, we've already reviewed Think, Plan, Do, which is the core framework of the successful thinking philosophy. Next, Vision, Strength, Reality adds a practical layer to Think, Plan, Do. Creative re-engineering can be used to break down dreams into visions and into goals. Life is a bunch of decisions. This one helps you understand how you can influence your destiny. Hard versus difficult versus tough. We face these every day, and knowing the difference can encourage us to continue in our quests. And finally, build your brain's trusts. This is a way to tap into the minds of some people you respect. Vision, Strength, Reality. This framework sits on top of Think, Plan, Do. It just offers a different perspective. Think gives you time to work out what your vision is. Plan, come up with a set of steps to guide you in your journey, gives you strength. And Do, actually getting stuff done. It's a lot of hard work. Welcome to reality. In vision, you need to be able to articulate what you want out of life. If you don't have a vision, spend more time thinking about your future potential. In strength, you need to identify what knowledge, equipment, and resources you will need at your disposal in order to achieve your vision. If you don't have what it takes, plan to obtain these or to develop these. It may take a long time. In fact, it sometimes may even take a lifetime. But then again, some goals are that big. Now, in reality, don't be afraid to ask yourself the tough questions. Am I on track? If not, why not? Do I have the tools or the resources to achieve the goal? Do I have a good enough plan to get me there? If I don't, perhaps I need to revisit my strengths or revisit my plan. Here is another way to compare a map think, plan, do with vision, strength, reality. You can use the think, plan, do framework to get started. Spend some time thinking. Work out what you really would like to achieve with your life. Once you know what you would like to achieve, work on your plan on how you would like to achieve this vision. Then start executing. Then you can use this vision, strength, reality framework to guide you along the way. And then start executing. Never lose sight of your vision and learn to take a flexible approach to achieving your success. The creative engineering framework works well if you know what you want out of life, especially if you can visualize what you want. When you have that vision in your mind, you can work backwards and work out what needs to be done at each step along the way in reverse order. I use the word creative because you need a good imagination to work with this framework. You need to be able to visualize each step of the way, each step, all the way back to the beginning, back to where you are now. In this way, you are able to build up your own roadmap to success. Make sure you write it down, document it, and review it often. This is one of the better tools to keep you on track to achieving your goals. Let's look at another framework. We call this one decisions. In our lives, we make many decisions. If we look at our own lives, there have probably been a number of decisions that we have made so far that have affected what we've achieved so far. Let's look at this. Whether we behaved as a young person, listened to our parents, whether we were able to study and achieve good marks in high school, whether we were able to go to university and complete further studies, whether we learned to spend less money than what we earned, or whether we chose to spend time with a particular person in our lives. Every one of these decisions and outcomes sort of affects the next one. Also, we tend to make decisions based on how we feel at the time. This is not good. If you are making a decision that will affect your future, it should be based on the outcome of that decision, on how it affects you. As adults, we learn to do things, even if we don't feel like doing them, because they just have to be done. Also, learning to make good small decisions helps us make better big decisions. And understanding the decisions framework will help us in the long term to achieve our goals. Now, the concept of this framework is simple. Think of it this way. Life is made up just with a bunch of decisions. If we make bad decisions early in our lives, we may end up not being able to achieve anything of great significance later on in our lives. But don't despair. It is never too late to start making good decisions. Let's look at this from a practical perspective. Over time, we make a lot of decisions. Let's assume that these decisions are represented by this decision tree. At the end of the time frame, say 10 years of your life, there will be some outcomes represented by A, B, C, D, E, F, or G. What we should understand is that decisions made early in the time frame will affect outcomes towards the end of the time frame. We need to realize that our actions, our decisions, can have a potential impact long into the future. Good decisions now will give you good returns and outcomes in the future. Now here is another framework. I call this one hard versus difficult versus tough. I refer to this as a framework because it can be relevant throughout many situations in your life. The problem with these terms is that people often confuse them, mix them up. I do it all the time. Let's look at these. Hard. You know what to do, but it will take a lot of energy, a lot of resources to get the job done. Difficult. We may not know what to do. We may not have the resources or not have the knowledge or know-how to solve this problem or this situation. Tough. It's where we have a number of choices, but we are not confident in choosing, giving us a tough choice. In everyday life, we are often faced with all of these. When faced with a challenging situation, we should ask ourselves the following. Do we know what to do? If yes, will it be hard work? If yes, am I prepared to do this work in order to achieve this goal? On the other hand, if we don't know what to do, are we prepared to find out or to educate ourselves in order to be able to more easily solve this problem? And finally, do we have several choices but are stuck, not quite sure what to do? Are we prepared to seek advice from our family, our friends, our peers, coaches, and mentors? Now, I think the important questions here are we prepared to seek advice? Are we prepared to find out how to educate ourselves? Are we prepared to do the hard work? Now, this framework is one of my favorites. I first came across it in a book called Think and Grow Rich from an author called Napoleon Hill. In a perfect world, we have plenty of time. We have friends, we have family, and we can openly talk about our issues, challenges, problems, dreams, etc. But in the real world, we often don't have the time or the will to discuss some of what is on our minds. We find it harder to relax, harder to open up, to share our ambitions with our friends. Perhaps one day we will, but until then, we have access to this concept, this framework, which I call the brain's trust. Imagine, if you could, pick anyone in the world, whether they are dead or still alive, whether you have met them or not, and be able to ask them a question or a series of questions. Who would you pick? And what would you ask them? This leads us to the framework, the brain's trust. So what is a brain's trust? A brain's trust is a group of people that you select as your own advisors. These are people you would go to for advice, guidance, on any number of issues and situations that you may face in your life. You pick the people in your brain's trust based on your love and respect for them. It could be anyone that you know or have known. It could be someone that you have never met. It could be someone that's no longer alive. You select these people because you believe that they can offer you sound advice, sound guidance, motivation, support, encouragement. You admire these people. You admire these people for what they have achieved in their lives, for what they have stood for in their lives. Now imagine this. Imagine if you could communicate with your brain's trust at any time, any place, and talk about any issue. That is what a brain's trust is all about. But I hear you ask, how exactly does a brain's trust work? If you've studied high school mathematics, you'll have learnt about factorials. Now, factorials is basically describing the number of possible links between a given number. So the bigger the number you have, the more links you have. The brain's trust can potentially work in a similar way. The more people you have in your brain's trust, the more possible conversations amongst those in a brain's trust. so the more potential answers to your questions. Sounds unreal? Maybe, but the concept works. How does it really work? The trick here is that you really need to know the people you select as your brain's trust. Now, I'll say this again, you need to know them well, even if they are no longer alive. You will need to read about them, research their lives, get to know them intimately. The better you get to know your brain's trust, the better advice you will get. Eventually, all the conversations happen in your head. I hear you say that. Yes, your brain does have a lot of idle capacity, and it may appear that you have just come up with an answer to your problem. What in fact may have happened is that your brain played conversations between your brain's trust members and eventually came up with an answer to a problem. Is this magic? Maybe. Does it really work? Yes, absolutely. Have some faith. Select 3 or 4 people that you admire, respect, know a lot about, and then add them to your brain's trust. Then ask yourself some of the tough questions, challenges that you are facing, and then see what happens. Now that's the end of the 6 frameworks that we've covered in the Successful Thinking Frameworks and Tools presentation. What I'd like you to do is review this presentation if you can, just to get a better understanding of all of the frameworks that we've covered. Spend some time documenting your thoughts. In your Life Solutions workbook that we provide. And in the discussion groups, read what others have to say about their thoughts on these frameworks and contribute your own thinking and knowledge and experience to enable others to learn from you. Now, thank you very much for reaching this far, and we look forward to seeing you in part 2, Tools from the Successful Thinking Frameworks and Tools. Thank you.